Welcome back. The Department of Veterans Affairs has a new cookbook out for improving customer experience across government, and it's not the only agency prioritizing CX. The Partnership for Public Service and Accenture Federal Services have new recommendations for making customer experience a priority across the government and in the White House. Loren Dejonge Schulman is Vice President of Research at the Partnership for Public Service, former Chief of Staff to the Assistant Secretary of Defense for International Security Affairs. Loren, welcome. Thanks for coming on the program. And I note that this work starts with the old ways won't work anymore. That's never stopped us in government from continuing to do things the old way, has it?
Not once before in my long experience, but I think what's been great about the last several months of the pandemic, if there's any shiny silver lining to any of this, is it's proven that we can, in government, can act much faster, much more responsibly to the American people's needs, and adapt things that would normally take months and even years in the matter of weeks when an emergency calls for it. So I think that level of customer experience that Americans are experiencing across the country, they're going to come to expect that no matter what's going on, whether it's in a crisis or in steady state, which is, if there's any positive thing that comes out of the last several months, that's a good thing that I hope that government can continue to take advantage of.
Your team notes that positive upturn here. You write, we found the government made progress since last year in addressing feedback and improving the customer experience. You use the word yet instead of but it's the same function, isn't it? What's the but here, Loren?
The but is that for all that there's been a lot of incredible innovation over the last several months. There's great examples at the VA, as you mentioned, in serving veterans. There's great examples in the Department of Agriculture, the IRS, and many others. There's still a lot more to be done in having agencies capable of understanding the adapting needs of their customers, whether it be in the middle of a pandemic, whether it be a caretaker trying to get medical support services for a veteran, whether it be a farmer trying to access a loan. These are not steady state things that agencies can just make a lot of assumptions about in terms of how their customers are wanting to be served, how they're best getting information, and how they're wanting to interact with the federal government. This is really kind of the pointy end of the spear, as DoD might say, where government is live and real in the lives of the American people in a way that it is not when you're watching a Rose Garden ceremony or a congressional hearing. This is how Americans are experiencing government on a day-to-day basis. And while some agencies have made real improvements that we discussed in understanding and adapting quickly and elevating those needs up to leaders who can make a difference in changing services, others still need to do a lot in order to adapt that functionality.
One of the recommendations that you're making is this: assigning a senior executive to lead on customer experience. Does that take the form of something like a chief customer experience officer, as some agencies have done, or is it an additional duty that goes to someone who is already kind of on the edges of customer experience type functions? What does that structure look like to be most successful in your view?
So I think what's important to understand is that every agency is going to handle customer experience differently. However, having someone at the senior leadership level who considers customer experience to be their primary job, whether called a customer experience officer or given another title, will do a lot to help adapt the culture of agencies and become more responsive to their own priorities. I think that, to mention the VA again, they have, under successive leaders, they've had secretaries and others who have taken this mission very seriously themselves personally and made sure that customer needs are translated to them on a regular basis. Other agencies have put in place senior executives who, as you say, that's in their job title, that's what they're getting paid for, that's what their performance objectives are. I think that's what it comes back to, though, is having leaders who feel a sense of accountability, that impacting the lives of their customers in a positive way is something that they need to be measured for, not just in outputs, but in outcomes. They're understanding how their actions and their programs are having impact, not just in the dollars they're spending or in the calls that they're making, but in how they're actually shaping these outcomes for the American people and those who visit and engage with the United States.
So it sounds like the main idea then is not so much a title as it is that there is a name and a known person who owns the customer experience goal of a particular agency. That's been particularly effective in the cross-agency priority goals in the President's management agenda, and you and your colleagues point out customer experience should remain a centerpiece of the PMA using the following government-wide strategies to improve services. There are 3 of those. What's the one that you think maybe agencies could adapt most easily, Loren?
So in terms of the PMA, just to kind of step back from your question for a moment there, Francis, the reason it's important to continue having customer experience in the PMA is this how the president makes clear this is where I expect you to change government, whether it be in adapting services, adapting functionality internally, how we collect and provide information. I think one of the top recommendations that I would say is most important is creating a centralized team to manage customer experience efforts with a government-wide perspective. So that you may have really great experience with the VA or U.S. Department of Agriculture. You may have terrible experience with the IRS. This impacts how people trust the government. It impacts how they want to engage with it, whether or not they think they're going to get fair and responsive service. Being able to share lessons across government they've learned in how to interact with people on social media, how to use artificial intelligence in customer experience, how to use informational tools and hold themselves accountable. These lessons need to be better centralized, better shared across government agencies and across government leaders. And I think that there's a real opportunity to make a statement by setting this cross-enterprise function, whether at the Office of Management and Budget or otherwise. The last thing I'll say on this is that this has got to come from the top. The president's management agenda is one element that would make clear that customer experience is a priority. But from the next president, from his agency leaders, from the cabinet, and by appointing those who are in charge of customer experience, inculcating that culture from the leadership and from the top down will make a huge difference in setting new priorities for the American people.